Whether it's the English countryside, or in this case, a rural Japanese village in the middle of nowhere, there's a reason such locations are staples in horror storytelling. There's something familiar about them, yet they are founded on such niche groups in isolation that this familiarity can quickly shift to feeling other in nature. This feeling is fundamental to the success of any horror narrative. Higurashi is one of my favorite horror stories in anime, if not my outright favorite for this reason. It nails the horror atmosphere while keeping in the slower slice of life moments in order to really sell what's happening on screen. The original 2006 series and its follow-up seasons are a masterclass in how to tell this kind of story and something I'd recommend to almost anyone. That's why when we got an announcement for a new Higurashi story in 2020 titled Higurashi Gou, I was immediately interested. We were told that the story would be a more faithful remake of the original story, perfect for old and new fans alike. My skepticism already set in with this statement, but that only had me more intrigued. Episode 1 rolled around, and it was nearly a one-to-one recreation of the original series, albeit with updated designs and a few directorial changes that didn't really impact anything. While I'm not personally a huge fan of these new glossier-looking characters, they generally look fine in motion, and I figured I could live with them so long as everything else measured up. That's what I was thinking until the first episode actually ended, and this happened. Followed up by... Wait a minute. So, series creator Ryukishi 7 basically trolled everyone. But did he really? I was left wondering, who's the new Higurashi For? After finally having completed the show, I have to say that the answer is, well, kind of complicated. On the one hand, the show does exactly what was stated. It's a remake of the first two series, Ni and Kai, with each of the original endings of those stories altered, sometimes dramatically, sometimes only slightly by adopting other parts from other arcs. This is all well and good for a new viewer, even capturing the general confusion a first-timer should have with the general narrative. For returning fans, though, these first 14 or so episodes don't bring a lot to the table. The minor variations in this updated adaptation aren't enough to completely sell the idea that this project really needed to be made. Some might argue that the upgraded visuals alone were enough to justify this, but this feeling felt rushed and left a lot of information to the wayside as a result. For example, who's Hanyu? She's there for like 2 seconds and then she's just gone from the story altogether. Like, who even was she? What's going on with these people? Guess it's not that important. Some of these details, admittedly, are kind of filled in later, but they are more ambiguous than they probably should be. When the story does finally venture into new territory with the school stuff, something that is only briefly mentioned at the start of Gou, the anime does manage to strike a good balance for both audiences. It's just a shame that things drag on for as long as they do. It was here that I could tell that something was off. On the surface, too much time was spent lingering on the school story and Sadako's feelings. The point being that this story was about growing up, much in the same way that Rei was for Rika. Now, just for a different character. Then the reveal happens. We spend the rest of the show largely spinning our wheels until the lackluster conclusion finally rolls around. The reason being the story will continue later in July 2021. This seems to be where the real meat of the series is going to be, which has the potential of being incredible. However, as things stand, it's not a stretch to say that Higurashi is trying to have its cake and eat it too. As things are currently, new viewers miss out on a lot of relevant information that was clearly cut in order to condense 2 seasons down into a fraction of episodes. While you can certainly infer a lot of what's going on, the impact of many of these events is just simply lost on the viewer. This does mean that the new series puts its cards on the table a lot faster, avoiding folks from losing interest, but what's gained here doesn't feel entirely worth what was sacrificed. In short, I can't in good faith recommend this to those asking where to start their journey with Higurashi. While you could certainly start here, the watch order I'd ultimately recommend would be starting with Ni, going to Kai. You could optionally watch Rei, but this season unfortunately kind of retcons some of that, so you could skip it. Go to Gou, and then the upcoming Sotsu. What about returning fans, then? Unfortunately, the structure of this new adaptation just kind of makes the first portion of the show boring. Looking at the new stuff, I can fully admit that I was intrigued, but the show is so coy about the new content and is so deliberate in holding back for the follow-up in July that it doesn't really do much for new fans either. There's a saying that in trying to please everyone, you end up pleasing no one. I wouldn't go so far as to say Higurashi's latest installment is bad or even a failure when it comes to catering to both audiences, but you'll decidedly notice a lack of oomph, no matter which category you fall into. Scores for this on Mal reflect this, and it's disappointing to say this as such a big fan of the series, but hey, there's hope in what's to come, and if anything, there's always the novels. If you've made it this far, thanks for watching my first video. If you like what you saw, please subscribe and be sure to ring the notification bell. Leave a comment letting me know your thoughts on Higurashi Gou. This kind of video wouldn't have been possible if not for the support of my community and patrons. Thanks so much for that. And until next time, see ya.